Hi everyone, a very warm welcome to my first video here on YouTube. It is episode 1 of Create This Book by Moriah Elizabeth and myself, Julia. So I've been working on the Create This Book series before. I think I first started in 2017 or 18. And yeah, I got all 3 of the books and I themed them entirely with Harry Potter. Yes, I am a huge Harry Potter nerd. Now you know that. Anyways, it was a lot of fun. I tried to recreate the US cover art by Mary Grand Prix and also tried to come up with something Harry Potter related for each and every single prompt. As you can see in these little sneak peeks here, I have finished Create This Book 1. I have almost completed Create This Book 2. There are only 6 prompts left. And side note, I'm planning to do flip-through videos on these 2 books that I have completed already. Create This Book 3 is the last one that I got, so in here I have around 1/3 of the prompts finished so far. These Harry Potter books I did only for myself, so I didn't film anything or post on YouTube. But for now, let's put the Harry Potter books aside. It is time for a fresh start. That's why I got myself a brand new copy of Create This Book. Sadly, there is no footage on the Harry Potter books, but this time it's gonna be different. I'm gonna take you along on my creating journey here on YouTube. So, let's get started with the cover. First of all, I printed out the cover pages again, cut out the parts that I wanted to keep blank, and just attach them to the book. And then I would color everything with black acrylic paint. Spoiler alert, that was kind of a fail, but never mind, you'll see what I'm talking about in a minute. But don't worry, nothing that couldn't be fixed. You might be wondering at this point why I'm covering everything in black. Well, that has a reason. I'm so fascinated by space. I love space exploration, astronomy, all that kind of stuff. So I decided to do the cover and also the introductory pages space related. And as most of space is just empty, dark, black, I need that black background to work on it. Okay, drum rolls. Yeah, this is where disaster struck for the first time. I don't know what actually happened. Like, the acrylic paint was stuck on the paper underneath it, and when I turned it around, it just came off. At first I thought, yeah, no problem, I will remove the loose part and paint it again and then it will be fine again, but no, it was not ending. The entire paint came off. I could just peel it off like that. This could have even been satisfying if it didn't mean that the entire work before was pointless. However, we don't give up. So now incoming is Plan B. I prepped the cover with some black tape, and then I will use these 2 black sheets of paper to do the artwork on it and then attach it to the book. Alright, now we can finally start with the actual space art. So I'm planning to do some space nebula in those typical colors, ultramarine and pink. It's just so pretty, I love that, and I hope it will turn out the way I envision it. To achieve this nebula-like look, I use acrylic paint and a sponge. For that I sacrificed my old kitchen sponge. Looking back, I should have removed that hairy black part from the sponge, because those nasty little hair, they just ended up everywhere stuck on the paint, but it's okay. I just didn't know better back then, I guess. So I apply the paint with my brush, and then I use the sponge to give it some texture and make it look like a nebula or a cloud. Okay, here I created a new spine for the book. It is just the same black paper that I used for the space nebulas, and I attach it with double-sided tape. Alrighty, and here are the nebulas. Yeah, and spoiler alert, disaster is about to strike again. So I wanted to use this stars sprinkling technique, but I really completely messed up. First, I forgot to add water to the paint, and of course it didn't work. Then, yeah, I used all kinds of techniques and just ended up with blobs and streaks, and then tried to fix it with a kitchen towel, but yeah, of course that didn't work. And at some point I was so frustrated that I just, destroyed it because I knew I would have to do it again. That was painful to watch. Anyways, I painted this entire thing again off camera and did the star sprinkling off camera because there was just too much pressure. However, when I finally found a technique that worked, I was confident enough to do the other piece on camera. So here you can see me sprinkle my stars without causing a huge mess again. I mean, there was a mess, obviously. The paint splatters were all over my hands, my clothes, my face, but it was worth it. At least it did work. I did some more stuff off camera. So on the inside of the cover page, I did this green space nebula, and I also sprinkled my stars on there, luckily without accidents. And on the inside page of the back cover, I did this spiral nebula in orange and red tones. Then I wanted some larger planets or asteroids in the foreground, so I drew a bunch of circles and used gray acrylic paint and the sponge to give them, kind of this rocky texture. And finally, I cut them out, which took quite a while. So let's jump forward. Here they are. And then I cut out the same set of circles again and used them as template so I could paint the illuminated part of the planets. Alright, so this is what the cover pages look like all put together. So now we just need to glue all the single elements in the right place. At some point I decided I wanted this silver metallic frame around the title. Maybe not the best idea to do that after gluing it to the page. So the sheet of paper that I used here, of course, stuck to the acrylic paint, and then we had this little white residue on the cover page. But nothing that couldn't be fixed with a little planet. Finally, I used the silver metallic gel pen again to add some stars to the title. And with that, our cover pages were done. Good, now for the satisfying part, removing those protective paper sheets. Off you go. And then we are ready for pasting the cover pages onto the book and laminating everything with some self-adhesive foil. voila! The front cover and the back cover are done, and also the inside pages of the covers. However, on the page with my green space nebula, I still wanted to add a little something, so I did this UFO sketch with 3 aliens on board. Let's trace the outlines again with some black fine liner. I really had to cut a lot of footage here because most of the time my head was in the picture and camera was focusing on my head, so you couldn't see anything of what I was doing. Oops. The first layer of color I did with alcohol markers. I absolutely love working with them. They blend so easily, they fill large areas super nicely. However, they're prone to fading, so usually I don't use them alone, but make sure to have another layer of colored pencils on top. On those areas where I didn't use alcohol markers before, but worked directly on the paper with my colored pencils, I really love to use a pencil blender. It makes the colored pencils more vibrant and you don't see those streaks from coloring. I'm really pleased with how this page turned out. I think the UFO and the green space nebula, they just look so cool together. Now also the title page needs a little touch up. So let's start with coloring in the blob in different shades of green. I used colored pencils for that and they were quite opaque, which is great. But they also kind of covered up the writing, so in the end I used a black acrylic marker to touch up the letters. So the last thing to do on this page is to add my name. And I didn't just want to write it on the line, but I wanted to make something special. So matching the theme of the cover, I came up with a space-inspired font. So for example, the J is kind of an astronaut, and the L is an alien, the I has a planet for the dot, and so on. Alright, so we can glue it into the book and the title page will be finished as well. Sadly, that means that we have already reached the end of the video. So let's do a little recap of what we did today. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video and maybe see you next time. Bye!